I'm Katie Constantino. I'm a board certified lactation consultant. I'm with Catholic Charities WIC. Our WIC program is very large. We serve more than 25,000 participants in Erie, Niagara, and Chautauqua counties. Breast milk provides the ideal nutrition for infants, containing the right balance of vitamins, proteins, and fats necessary for the healthy growth and development. Breast milk composition can even change day to day and over time to meet the infant's needs. The World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Family Physicians, and American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists all recommend exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, with continued breastfeeding till at least 2 years of age or longer if mutually desired by mom and baby. Following these guidelines could save over 800,000 children's lives each year in the US alone. When a baby is not breastfed, they're at an increased risk for many health issues. The mother that does not breastfeed is also at an increased risk for negative health outcomes as well. I was only breastfed for a day or two. I never reached the full potential of what I was supposed to have in my life. So our goal is to help every infant reach their full potential. As you listen to this list that I'm going to talk about, I'm sure that you'll hear me mention a health issue or two that may have impacted your family as well. There is often a family health risk that motivates a parent to choose to breastfeed, to avoid that health struggle that their family members had to endure. So the infant health risks when not breastfed include increased risk of colds, more GI problems, vomiting, diarrhea, more ear infections, increased risk of respiratory infections and hospitalizations in the first year of life. There's an increased risk of asthma, especially when there's a family history. There's an increased risk of food allergies, childhood obesity, higher cholesterol numbers, higher blood pressure, and an increased risk of developing type 1 diabetes in childhood. There's also an increased risk of having an autoimmune disorder throughout their lifetime, such as psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. There are increased risks of necrotizing enterocolitis among preterm infants. That is why it's so important that if a mother does not have enough of her own breast milk for her preemie, we would want baby to have donor breast milk that has been pasteurized by a milk bank. Even adding a little bit of mother's own milk to that donor milk changes the composition to more closely resemble the mother's own milk. There's also an increased risk of sudden infant death syndrome in infants who are not breastfed. Another thing is an increased risk of childhood cancers, including leukemia. Another risk from infant formula is that it can be contaminated, sadly, even here in the US, as we know what happened a few years ago. We can't always trust that it's going to be okay. Women who breastfeed experience both short-term and long-term health benefits. They can experience a faster return to pre-pregnancy weight, less postpartum bleeding after delivery. The hormone oxytocin that makes your milk eject also makes your uterus contract, which reduces excessive bleeding. Each year of breastfeeding reduces a woman's risk of breast cancer by 4 to 7%. This was my why reason to breastfeed. My mother died of breast cancer when she was 49. So whatever I could do, I was going to breastfeed as long as I could. I knew there were a lot of great things about it, but that was my why for me. There's also a reduced risk of ovarian cancer, a lower risk for women to develop type 2 diabetes after breastfeeding. This is especially important for a woman who's had gestational diabetes. Breastfeeding can lower her risk of going on to have type 2 diabetes. There's also a lowered risk for women to have less cardiovascular disease and strokes in women that breastfeed. The protective benefits are greater for mom and baby the longer that the mother breastfeeds. Breastfeeding provides a way to satisfy a baby's hunger right away. No need to worry about making bottles, having formula in the house. In a natural disaster, this can be life-saving. When there's no clean water or formula available, you're going to be able to feed your baby. If you're safe at home in a blizzard, you can breastfeed and not worry about having to go out into the storm. which sadly, people died here in Buffalo going out to get formula during that storm. This quote is from the New York State Model Hospital Breastfeeding Policy that every New York State maternity hospital must follow. Improving breastfeeding rates is not only the sole responsibility of individual women, rather governments, policymakers, hospitals, healthcare providers, communities, and families all share responsibility. Families encounter predatory formula marketing at every turn. This is a $6 billion a year industry in the US that spends $3 billion a year on marketing alone. The World Health Organization, and just about every organization in the maternal infant health space, requires all to abide by the WHO code of marketing of breast milk substitutes. Families deserve evidence-based information on infant feeding, free from commercial influences. These companies only make money when breastfeeding fails and mothers start supplementing. Helping families to meet and exceed their breastfeeding goals is what all of us in this room are working with families to try to achieve by providing that support and education for mom to continue breastfeeding and be successful. And these protective benefits of breastfeeding last a lifetime. When you hear all of those reasons to breastfeed, I think a lot of people know it's good, it's better, but they don't realize all these specifics that are really, really, really important to help moms continue on. So thank you for having us.